Am I the jerk for not giving my sister my wedding venue even if she is pregnant and needs it more? First post, Part 1. My fiancé and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3. I was doing my PhD program and was juggling planning the wedding. My fiancé took much of that work, but it was perfect because our dream venue was booked till after my graduation. So what we did is book our dream venue 3 years in advance. It is really a beautiful venue. The only slot we got was September of this year. My sister got engaged a few months ago to her fiancé. They were planning on having a spring wedding next year. They had no venue lined up, but had a few vendors lined up as well as a set date. Yesterday our parents invited us and our so's to a family barbecue, where my sister announced to our extended family that she is expecting. Everyone was so happy for her and my Bill, who is a great guy. My nan asked my sister if the wedding was still on the set date or if they were going to wait. Because of the baby she said no, that she hoped to move it to September. NBD. We don't have many out-of-town guests so they could attend to both weddings no problem. Nan was happy and asked sister if she needed help planning such a short notice wedding. My sister then turns around and said, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was really hoping we could kinda like take your venue. I really cannot stress myself too much with planning a wedding while going to maternity classes. And I think it is so beautiful. It would really mean a lot to me. It went silent. But everyone was looking at me expecting me to say, yes of course, everything for my little sister. My Bill looked very uncomfortable and told her that they had talked about this and that it was not okay to put me on the spot. But my sister just said, don't be like that. My sister wants to do what's best for me, so it's no big deal, right? I just said, well, it kind of is. I don't know. I have my heart really set on the venue. Cue the crying. She stormed off. Nan told me that I was being selfish because she needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself and my mother said, you waited 3 years. Would it have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something? A few comments later my fiancé got really mad and we left. My sister called me crying and said that it was unfair that I always get what I want and that I could have done this one thing for her. Dad said it is just a venue and what matters is the person who you are marrying. He is kind of right. But we have been planning for so long. My fiancé is furious with my family and doesn't even want my sister to come. Now my family is threatening not to come because I'm being selfish and my sister needs it more than me because having a baby is too stressful. Part 2. My Bill called me and apologized for the inconvenience. He told me he had discussed it with my sister and she had told him she would not ask. He is properly mad with her now and warned me that my sister is blaming me for potentially ruining her marriage. My father has sent me about 5 texts along the lines of I hope you're happy your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday and so on and so on. My fiancé and I have decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and replace her with my aunt, who is the only family member that took my side. We have not decided whether or not we will invite my family as a whole. Furthermore, my mom took it upon her to tell on us. She called fiancé's parents and told them that it would be best if my sister gets it because she is pregnant and preeclampsia runs in the family. Whatever that means. My future father-in-law told them to fuck off and basically ripped my mom a new one for expecting something so ridiculous and that they were going to lose me if they keep playing favorites. So my mom is now crying too and saying that my father-in-law is an ass. This is just getting so pathetic. It seems straight out of a bad soap opera. My in-laws are driving to us currently with some supper and wine and basically told me to not worry and that no matter what happens that they will be my safety net. I cried of happiness. Part 3. So it hasn't been that long. But this post blew the hell up. I was expecting only a few answers but the support was overwhelming. What boggled my mind is that this story flooded over to mainstream media. But let's get to the story. So since this went viral, a lot happened. My sister saw this story while browsing on her Reddit. She lost her mind. She accused me of painting her like a loony and misinterpreting facts. Info. My sister got wind of the situation due to various media outlets and went on Reddit. She said that I was being unfair, that she is family and that she asked it nicely because she loves me. She also underlines the fact that the opinion of internet strangers doesn't count because family is more important and I should focus on making my family happy. The only text I sent back was this. I am sorry that you perceived it that way. I did not in any matter distort what happened. As you might notice, I didn't describe your tone nor exaggerated anything. Perhaps you have that night different in your mind than I do, but I digress. I am sick and tired to bending to your will. My whole life I have been your servant and your doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you because you would throw a tantrum because you didn't get presents? Or when you cried so that I would fill out job applications for you. But the thing that has hurt me most till now is when you ruined my graduation. I am done. I admit that I also spoiled you, but I will not any longer. If you want to marry so bad before your baby is born, then you could look at Hotel X, that offers last-minute weddings. I have spent too much time planning my wedding to gift it to you. And if you want to ruin our relationship over this, then go ahead. I will sleep sound and safe knowing that it wasn't my fault. She only sent me a wow. You must love me so very much. And blocked me. She unblocked me this morning to send me this. Wedding planner. Hello dear. I got the message from your mother and will proceed with the rebooking of the venue on the spot. However, this will have extra costs as we have to change the names on the contract. Please come by my office tomorrow so we can sign the new contract. /sister. That's great. I'll be there at 9. My parents. My parents haven't actually written me since the thing with my father-in-law. My older brother. Yes, I have an older brother, but he lives in another city and wasn't at the barbecue. That's why I didn't mention him. Plus he initially could not come to the wedding because of work and changed his plans after hearing about all the story. Contacted me and wanted to know what happened because he got a weird story from mom and dad. Mom had told him that I had offered previous to the barbecue to give up the venue to my sister and that I humiliated her. I told him what really happened and he had no problem believing me. We talked a lot about our parents' behavior and he confessed that him moving was partly due to our parents being, and I quote, shitheads to us. He told me that mom had gotten wind from the post and was mad at me for betraying my family. I haven't written my parents what so many of you advised me to because I have to come to terms with the fact that they love my sister more than me, if they love me at all. The wedding. We sat together and put passwords with majority of our vendors and also with the venue directly. We didn't talk to our planner yet, which is why the text of my sister worries me so much. Also, we canceled the catering that my parents paid for. So short term we won't be able to get a full catering like we wanted to. But all our friends and my fiancé's family will help us prepare a buffet, and everyone is going to chip in. That will be our bachelor party. As we will have to spend more on our food now, we canceled our bachelor parties and we'll have a family and friends cooking session. Thank you again for helping me see how toxic my family is. I will try to sort it out. If they apologize from the bottom of their heart, they will be allowed into my wedding, but if not, then well. I still have my brother, who will be walking me down to the aisle, and my aunt. Part 4. We called my planner and she was actually really horrified. She told me she never had as much as talked to my mother since the day we went to book the venue. She assured me that even if they were to call and say that I wanted it, I had to be present to make any changes. So we informed everyone that will work for us on our wedding and they offered to hire security for that day at a reduced price. Update. I hope that this time this doesn't get removed, or at least give me some reason, damn it mods. Smiley face. A few days have passed and we luckily have sorted many things out. Passwords are set with the vendors. Security has been hired. Recipes for the family and friends cookout have been chosen and I will start therapy soon. Sadly, some upsetting things have happened as well. My sister of course is brigading against me on Facebook. Making constant passive-aggressive remarks. Saying that I made her depressed, etc. I have received many messages from her friends saying that I am bitch for treating her that way. I won't mention what happened to Bill. He wants to tell his story once he is ready. I blocked every attempt at online harassment and my sister as well. But 2 days ago my sister's best friends egged my car. I called the police and my neighbor, whose hobby is to look outside the window and spy on people, identified them too. She is a grumpy lady but actually very lovely once you get to meet her. Now to the part that has me fuming. After not talking to my parents in several days, they called and asked if we could talk things out. I was worried but agreed to meeting them with my fiancé in our apartment. When they arrived you could tell my mom had been crying. And I honestly felt bad for 10 whole minutes. Many of you guys said that they probably played favorites to avoid my sister's meltdowns or that she might have been diagnosed with something and that's why they baby her. Well, no. Turns out my sister is, like also many of you suspected, just an asshole. No medical history. No diagnosis, nothing. We started chit-chatting awkwardly, then we began talking about the matter. My father first asked us why we canceled the caterers, to which my fiancé responded that we didn't want to have anything they could hold over our heads. Insert surprised Pikachu face from both of them. Dad acted offended and said he would never, so that to which I said better safe than sorry. My mother continued with calling me disrespectful for talking in that manner to them. I called it disrespectful for all what they had said and done over the last few days. We got in a heated argument about the venue again, to which my father repeated the "it doesn't matter where you get married but the person you are marrying" bullshit. And finally I gave him the comeback so many of you guys wanted me to give. Yes, Dad, exactly. But isn't it weird how that only applies to me and not my sister? As long as she is marrying Bill it doesn't matter where, right? It was dead quiet and my father was red like a tomato and gasping for air like a fish on land. My mother was quietly crying again and so I said, well, I'm waiting for your reasoning. My father slapped his hands on the table and went on a rant about family and sacrifices and how a loving family should do what's in their power to make each other happy. I just responded like how you tried to make me happy on my graduation day? You know, when sister smashed my cake because she wasn't in the limelight? Quiet again. My mother quietly said, why do you hate us so much? I looked at her and said I could ask you guys the same thing. Again, nothing. My parents knew that they had fucked up but they were not ready to admit it. My mother tried to guilt trip me saying that my sister is miserable, that she hasn't gone out in days because people judge her so much. My father went on a tangent on how my little sister just needs more time and attention because she is the youngest, etc., etc. So basically excusing her behavior. I told them that I felt hurt because I now saw their blatant favoritism. That they didn't even try to conceal the fact that they loved my sister more. My mother tried to say that's not true. We love you all the same. I wasn't having it. I opened a list I had written on my phone where I had written every point I could remember about them putting my sister before me. It was a very long list. Some had dates to it. Some were more specific situations. When I was finished my parents were horrified, betrayed and near tears. They wanted to start explaining again how I was wrong but I said that this conversation was leading nowhere. They either set family counseling up for us and apologize to me or they won't be invited to the wedding. They left and haven't called since. Update to the wedding. Finally, I get around to writing an update. I am sorry that it took so long, but I have a few updates to my life. I guess, however, that you guys are mainly here to see how my wedding played out in the aftermath with my family. After I last spoke to my parents, they did not let go of their position. I was the bad guy. I was responsible for my sister's depression and her failing relationship. It went so far that I had to block them and change my number as they were contacting me from relatives' phones and so on. It was a real bummer, especially during a time that should be so special. I was harassed by my sister and her entourage on Facebook and Instagram, so I simply deleted it. It was a mentally draining time, but my husband's family and friends and my brother helped me get through it. I had basically cut off every family member that had given me shit for keeping my wedding date. My Nan came to my door a few days before the wedding begging to let her come. I had a long talk with Nan and she ended up apologizing even though she still failed to see the logic in switching weddings. But she did not want to pressure me and wanted to be there for me. We hugged it out, but our relationship is not back to normal yet. The bachelor party was amazing. We were cooking until dawn and everything turned out to be delicious. My husband made a beautiful 3-layered cake. Wedding day. The morning was really good and relaxing. My bridesmaids and I got ready. We drank some Prosecco, made pictures. My dress fit perfectly and I just looked gorgeous. But then came time to leave for the ceremony. We were at the venue making before pictures with my friends when I saw the little car of my sister approaching the venue. Admittedly, I was shitting my pants, or well, my dress. One of my friends ran to the venue to get one of the security people that we hired. I really didn't want another Hulk smash moment at my wedding. She had been angry crying, and as soon as she saw me she started screaming obscenities. Apparently I am a filthy bitch that made her fiancé break up with her. She was like possessed, and at that moment I couldn't but feel pity for her. A thing to explain is that in the mornings the plants are always watered at the venue by some of these sprinkler systems. Thus the earth was a bit muddy. The next thing happened really fast. My sister bent down to take mud and was getting ready to throw it at me and my dress when my maid of honor sprinted towards her and pushed her so that she fell with her butt into the flowers. The security officer arrived seconds later and removed her. And with that, I had enough ammunition to file for a restraining order against her. I didn't even want to file a police report at this point. I just wanted her to stay away from me. The rest of the day was just amazing. I married my best friend, the love of my life and just my rock. My brother walked me down the altar. We all cried at the vows. It was just spectacular. Of course, I missed my parents, but it is what it is. The celebration was very funny. My husband had studied a choreography to a Taylor Swift song with his groomsmen, and the speeches could have been from a stand-up club. We left for our honeymoon, and when we came back I decided to start looking for jobs in a different city. I didn't want to lose my friends, but I just felt like I needed a clean break. I got a new job at a university in a bigger city, and we are currently in the process of moving. But maybe the biggest change, and also the most cliché change, is that I am pregnant. It is a classic honeymoon baby. We haven't really told anybody now in fear of something happening, so you nice people of Reddit are the first ones to know, besides my husband and me. I am so excited that I am tearing up just writing this. This was not something we planned for a few years, but we are ecstatic regardless. I have only heard through people in town about the rest of my family. My sister is still going around telling people that I was the reason Bill broke up with her and that I was trying to dox her or some shit. She has moved in with my parents again and refuses to work. Nan told me that the last time she saw my parents they looked exhausted because my sister was behaving like a baby. I guess their parenting is catching up with them. I can only say that I am really happy right now. It hurts having lost family, but at the end of the day cutting out toxic people is the best I could do. I now have a husband and a honeymoon baby on the way. My very own family. Oh, and a shiny backbone. Thank you, Reddit, for reassuring me that I indeed was not being selfish, that my family was not in the right. Thank you so much for just writing your comments supporting me. I even took up therapy, but I have to say I'm really enjoying life. Thank you for everything. This is the update to the graduation story mentioned in the post. Hulk smash graduation cake. Some people asked me for the graduation story I talked about in my last post, and as I am sick and bored out of my mind I will tell you the story. This wasn't too long ago, so I remember it quite good. It was the day I delivered my thesis and presented it. A German tradition is that once you complete your PhD you get one of those black graduation caps that have pictures, memes and little toys that describe you best glued on them. So I also got that I absolutely loved. One of the things glued on my cap were gummy worms because I would eat them constantly. We had booked a little hall in the university to celebrate. My fiancé and friends had decorated it, provided coffee, snacks, drinks, etc. Also my fiancé had crafted a beautiful cake, one of those that have a self-made marshmallow fondant and a color gradient that went from yellow to pink. Really beautiful cake. So eventually, after snacking, talking and even dancing a bit, it was time for the speeches. My friends and my boss said how proud they were, etc., and then came my fiancé. He talked about all my accomplishments in my life up to this point. My sister absolutely lost it. I mean, she screamed and cried like I had killed her cat. My mom was giving my BF signs to stop his speech and went running towards my sister. My father was already kneeling beside her, calming her down. Everybody was kind of lost at this point. My mom came up to me and asked me to do a little speech mentioning the accomplishments of my sister and all that. I asked why. My mom told me about her being rejected from her master's program and that was the reason for her breakdown. I suppose I looked annoyed because my mom snapped and said, "You know what, forget it." She then told my dad, who had managed to calm my sister down, to take her home. My dad took her by the arm and they started to walk out. And holy hell, as my sister noticed the cake, she lost it again, crying like a maniac, and she smashed my effing cake. Everyone went silent. My dad dragged my sister out without so much as apologizing. My mom just muttered, "My poor baby." Then I started crying. My friends and fiancé went to cheer me up, but my mom was texting dad to see if my sister was alright. She followed me to the bathroom and reprimanded me for not acting when I saw my sister crying. I told her that I was hurt by all the scene. My mom just said that I had to understand my little sister, because it was a hard time for her and that she didn't have a fancy graduation like me. She then left. We tried to keep the celebration, but it was not really possible. We went home early.